in cases. Like, it's, like, that's what it is. So, there are people that say, you know, why bother? And our philosophy is, we're gonna do our part. If someone's committed an offense, it's not only about the accused person, it's about the victim. You were the victim of a crime. It's important that you know that the police service cares about how that impacted you, that we want to get your property back, and that if nothing else, we've laid a charge, and then for us, it's up to the courts what happens with that offender.
So the expansion of a jail system, would that be a separate organization from you?
Jails it depends on the sentence, but largely provincial. So the courts are funded and the provincial jails are funded at the provincial level.
Thanks.
Thank you for the opportunity to meet tonight. Thank you to the radio giving the notice for the meeting tonight, Cool 106.3. I'm a Wallsburg transplant. I go back to Wallsburg. The crime's out of control there. The visible drug use is out of control. I don't think anyone who smokes something off tinfoil has a mental issue. That's a crime, and they belong in a cell to clean up. And I'm living on the East Street side of Sarnia, and I'm noticing a lot of racing. But I also have to tell myself, well, if I was working right now, I wouldn't be hearing this. So I bite my tongue on a lot of things, but the downslope of that road makes it seem like it's a runway for racing towards the Strangway Center. But I'm also a person that can't drive right now, but I look forward to my license again. But I'm on a bike, and I try to enjoy Sarnia for what it has. I go to the beach as much as I can. I like to see the tourism and whatnot. And I feel safe in Sarnia. I'm up through the night sometime, and I can go to the store, and I don't feel pressed by anyone or chased away, or so no one's trying to sell me or anything. So there's a general peace there. So I really don't have safety concerns, but I can see if you only have 6 cells, then if there's probably more than 6 people that are under the influence of something. So it kind of discourages probably picking up everyone that is intoxicated, because you don't have the room, and then it falls under mental health or whatnot. But I just wanted to comment that I do feel safe coming from a different town to Sarnia, and your efforts are working.
Good. Thank you for that, and you'll be happy to know that our traffic staff sergeant has heard your complaint live in Technicolor.
Hi, my name is Stacy, and I just want to say, like, I'm a Sarnia resident for more than 15 years. I'm a homeowner for 15 years. I pay taxes. I have not, I'll be transparent, I have not been super involved in the Sarnia Police Service from a monetary perspective, because policing is needed, and I will gladly pay taxes for that service. So looking at a new facility, I understand the need for it. I would support that from a monetary value as well as an increase to my taxes. When we're looking at that and the cost of the facility, what does that look like when it turns into coming back to the taxpayer, like from a monetary value? So it's an increase of $60 a month in my property taxes. Like, what do you have an idea of what that would look like for us?
So the short answer is I don't know. I am a taxpayer myself in Sarnia, and so I'm equally concerned that we're getting good value for the money that we pay in taxes, and that our tax increases are reasonable and affordable. I can tell you that we have had conversations with the city of Sarnia, and they have told us that as a police board, it's not our responsibility to figure out how the police facility would be financed or paid for. Ultimately, our role as a police service board is to develop a strategic plan to have that implemented, to decide, for example, if we need to have a new facility or not. And all the research that we've done has suggested that that's the way we need to go. And then our mandate is to request to the city for the financing of that, and ultimately it's up to the city. And I acknowledge that I think our city council is going to have a very interesting look at all kinds of projects that are being brought forth for this fall. Not just the police facility, but there's a number of capital projects, and they're going to have to determine what the priority is. So we've been told that ultimately the city decides how to finance it. I can tell you, and I'm not speaking as an expert in this field, but just as a resident, I know that when I purchase my home, whatever the cost is, I don't pay it in cash. I don't think any of us do. And if you do, well, then you're probably in a totally different market. But what we do is we take out a mortgage, and we have it amortized over 25 years, 30 years, whatever the case may be. And that's the way the city also has to finance capital projects. They just don't pay for them in 1 year. And if you think about it ethically, why should they? Why should the taxpayers of 2025 pay the full cost of something that's going to be realized and enjoyed by taxpayers over the next 100 years?
Yeah.
So really, the whole concept of spreading this out over many years makes a lot of sense to me.
Mhm.
But I'm only speaking as a taxpayer, not as a police board chair.
Yeah, and I agree with you, and this is why I brought my son, he's 16, he's going to be a Sarnia resident as well, well, potentially, but I think it's important, that he's involved at this age as well, so he understands how this is going to affect him, possibly in the future as an adult, and a contributing adult to this society, right? I think that's important. So thank you for your answer to that. I have a lot to learn, so I'm just starting. Second question for you, from a policing standpoint. I don't live in the South End, I don't live in the North End, I'm central Sarnia. I am noticing, a lot of people talk about crime in the South End. I'm noticing, as I've been in my area longer, that crime is approaching a little bit, further from the south and coming closer to my area.
Mm-hmm.
We have in my area a home, a lovely home, and we know it's a trap house, and we know that there's a lot of stuff happening there. And I am seeing, and it's disheartening, we've made calls, the whole community has made calls. I'm seeing 14-year-old children walk into that drive, they're right across the street from me. So I'm seeing 14-year-old kids that went to school with my 14-year-old walk across the street into this home where I know that they have no business being. There's no other 14-year-olds in that home. How do we deal with that as a community going forward? Especially when we've made the calls, we've made the complaints, and we just feel like it's falling on deaf ears. And I do have kids that witness it as well, and have been friends with some of these kids that we're now witnessing going into these properties. So I know that it's not an easy fix. I know the amount of time, and I know the effort that the police service is putting into stuff like this as well. But what else can we do as a community?
I just going to throw my deputy right under the bus. I'll just say a couple things, and I'll introduce Deputy Chief Ron Hansen, who does all our investigations. I will say that the challenge for us is what you're experiencing is not uncommon, which is unfortunate. I can say that our MCAT unit has done a tremendous amount of work in our analytical team in looking at those and building those files. And I think you've seen a couple community priorities in recent history addressed very directly by our team and with drug search warrants and those types of things. So very much so, we are working as quickly as we can to address those very issues. It's just such a big problem. And the impacts in the community ripple out from there. To your earlier point was you're starting to see some pieces happen. Often in policing, if you're successful in this area, people that commit crimes learn to move somewhere else. So what we really do as a service focus on the offender. because the offender is the offender no matter where they are. So we're looking at we have a new offender management approach to things. We do very much look at those individuals that cause a disproportionate amount of crime and chaos because of their criminal histories. And we look at them as a priority because they victimize more than anyone else. So in terms of some of that, displacement, that's how we go. And then just anything for MCAT or Intel?
Thanks, Chief. So since I've arrived in Sarnia, we've kind of reimagined our investigative areas. So we now have our major case action team, which deals with quality of life and drug issues. We have a new expanded intelligence unit, which gathers information. So if you have information about where drugs might be dealt with, organized crime, things like that, my intelligence unit will deal with that stuff. So we do look at quality of life issues. I also have an offender management program now where I have officers that are dedicated to go and do bail compliance and seek out and hold those accountable, those criminals who are on bail accountable for their violations. So if you have information about a drug house or something that is of interest to us, certainly we will take the information. We may not act on it right away, but for those of you who have seen the YouTube video of the trap house from late last year, right? So that took us a while to finally get to it, but when we did, it was very fruitful. So we'll take your information. It may not happen tomorrow, but I assure you that when we get enough complaints about a location, we give it proper attention. Okay?
Thank you so much.
And you've seen the blitzes as well. We've had a couple of citywide blitzes done in terms of warrants and some other enforcement. So just that's offender management behind the scenes doing those things.
So there were 2 possible locations, I believe, for the new building. If you haven't had a design team design your new building or the properties assessed for engineering and such for those locations, how can you have a price that you took to the city council? And how much do you foresee that increasing as we move forward?
Thanks for the question. So we actually had more than 2 properties. So as part of the process, we sat down with city staff, and they have an inventory of all city-owned properties. And so we took a look and we said, well, we were looking for a property. Initially, we said we wanted about 15 acres. We didn't get that in the end. We got 11.7. But they provided us, I think, with about a list of 12 properties, 10 to 12 properties. And they suggested, here are the pros of some of these properties, here are the cons. A number of the properties were in the area of Wellington Street East, either on the south end or on the north end. And a lot of those properties, the city has economic interests in those. In other words, they want to develop them for housing or as part of the research park. So and there was also a consideration of land around the airport as well. But some of the considerations with the airport is with the communications towers and the things that the Sarnia Police Service requires, that's not a very viable location either. So it just kind of, looking at all the properties, and we talked to the consultant about it as well, we kind of zeroed in on the property that we have now. So, and then in terms of the estimated cost for the facility, I think that was your question as well, right?
Yes.
So, so we're working with an architect that has built police services, or police facilities across the province, has a lot of experience in this area, and to get what they call an order of magnitude cost. And I need to stress, order of magnitude. I mean, we don't know, like, until they design it, and until that design is approved by the board, and until it's probably approved again by city council, because the city in the end is going to actually own it, so there's going to be all those approvals. We won't know the exact cost of it, but the order of magnitude cost is based on what they call benchmarks. So what they say is, okay, this is your population of your municipality. This is the number of people that you have in your facility. So based on that, and based on the functions of a police service, you probably need about this amount of room, and the benchmark for what it costs to build a police facility based on the number of square feet, that's how they calculate it. And then on top of that, there's an architect fee as well. And so that's how they come up with the numbers. So it's an order of magnitude. You know, I was concerned. I said, well, you know, like, so what's gonna happen? You know, a year from now, is it suddenly gonna be 110 million or 120? So, you know, those are concerns that we have as a board. We wanna make sure that this is a open and transparent process. And so one of the things we did was in the city's asset management plan, which was which was just recently updated. But previous, they had a new police facility at $60 million. And we said, you know what, that's like, it's not gonna be 60 million, it's gonna be more than that. And so the city's asset management plan has been updated with the new figure. And I think that's appropriate, because the last thing we want is to talk about a new police facility, and then every single time we have a new conversation, oh, it's $1 million more here and there, and so on and so forth. I can't guarantee it's gonna be 91 in the end, I don't know, but the order of magnitude costing that we've received from the architect is 91. I don't know if that helps, but.
Two more questions. You are okay with the answer?
Hey, it's Alan. So I've got a question. I just want to lead up to the question. I lived here all my life, and Sarnia demolishes every building that they don't use or whatever it is. My question is, with the old police station that this plan goes through, are you guys going to demolish it? Is it going to be an extra cost, or can you sell that police station and use the pro funds from that towards the cost of the new police station?
Yeah, so that's a good question, and I think it's a good opportunity to just clarify. So the Sarnia Police Service does not own the facility, and they don't own the property. And that's pretty, you know, that's pretty standard across the province. Because the Community Safety Policing Act talks about that the municipality will provide a facility for the police service. So it's pretty standard for the city to own it. Now, we've reminded the city that the present police facility and the property have value. Yes, you know, some money has to be put in to bring it up to code, but it doesn't mean that the building has to be demolished. And whatever they do with it, should they decide to keep it, or they sell it to a developer, I personally believe that it probably has quite a bit of value. And so I think my advice to the city would be that they take that into consideration. So yes, on the one hand, we're looking at a $91 million facility,
they can put
perhaps,
it back in
but
the
on the other hand,
$2 million
we also have the
high-rise there.
asset and the property that has a lot of value too.
Right, you had a slide up, and it showed that from 2003 till when you came in, there was literally no money put into any kind of maintenance, any kind of preventative maintenance to the building, whether it's equipment, whatever. Is there a plan going to be put into place, or is in place now, to prevent that from happening again, so that the building will be maintained to a higher standard?
Yes, we're just pulling it up so people can see the slide. So yes, in our last 3 sessions of budget, part of the budget reports that are public and have gone to the board and ultimately approved by the board include, I'll use the term, right sizing the budget lines. So that means to make them reflect the reality of the cost. So the vehicle budget, for example, and we have our finance director here as well, and she can speak to it, although she'll also be mad if I throw her under the bus. So she can nod her head in agreement or shake her head no if I'm saying something wrong. But what we're trying to do is we have to catch up, and then we have to make it sustainable and accurate. So some of those increases are putting the budget not artificially low, but reality-sized accurate. We can under-report, we can under-budget even, and then we're gonna be overspent, and then we'll be criticized. At the end of the day, it's the same money. My view as chief, when we're reporting to the board, is to give the board the real numbers. This is what we spend, this is what we need, these are the estimated costs, and then the board can deliberate, and then we, see what we can and can't do with that. So absolutely, we're trying to make the numbers accurate. So what you'll see is those numbers the goal is to plateau. And I mean, like with incremental increases over time, like we talked about, would be the prices go up.
Well, yeah, naturally.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is gonna be money going into the structure of the building
So
primarily?
these are budget lines, so this is like maintenance costs. Like, let's take, for example, the one on the bottom. There's essentially no budget for the building, but there's a little blip there. What was that, Kathy, in 2010-ish, do you know? Something cost money that they had to fix, so that it was taken from somewhere else and spent on the building. But there wasn't like a consistent fund there.
Well, that's kind of what I'm getting at.
Yes.
In order to prevent where you are today, your structural issues. Some of them you can't fix very easily, but some of them you could.
Well, the same
At a
applies.
much lesser cost if it had been.
The same applies to reserves. For example, we have a building replacement reserve that has $200,000 in it after 35 years in that building. So these are the things. If you don't put money in savings, if you don't incrementally build, at some point in time, you're gonna have a bill. That's it for anything, your car, your house, whatever it is. And all we're doing with this